We are already taking great value from App Center. We are already able to distribute to ourselves or all of the collaborators and the testers directly from App Center for every single push that we send to our repo. And that in itself is super important and makes things super easy for us developers. It makes it super easy for us to start to distribute to other developers to test this application or to other collaborators and to the testers that will help us test new features. Now, of course, we're still missing the distribution to the stores, which is in itself a great thing to do through App Center because it really makes things just easier. We're going to take a look at that in this same section, but in this lecture and in the next one, I want to focus on something else that App Center provides. And that is why I am right here on Visual Studio. Because in this lecture, we're going to be implementing the ability to diagnose errors, crashes inside of our application. So the first thing that I will have to do is in Visual Studio 2017 on Windows, you can do this directly from the solution. Here on Mac, I will have to go to Dependencies, right-click the Node.js packages, and select that packages. Here, I am going to search for App Center, and you will be able to find the Microsoft.appcenter.crashes and the Microsoft.appcenter.analytics packages. These two will have to be added to all of the projects inside of the solution. Again, in the case of Windows, you can do this directly from the solution and add it to all of the packages. In the case of Mac, we do have to do this project by project. So just add two of these to both Android and iOS as well, and you'll be good to go. Once this has been added, we will be able, or we actually will need, to go to the app.saml.cs file. And here you're going to find the onStart method. In the onStart method, we need to initialize this SDK, the App Center SDK, with some information about the applications that we have over on App Center. So we have to tell the SDK that we have these Android and these iOS applications for which we want to use crashes and add some diagnosis for certain errors. And that will happen on the onStart, right when the application is starting. Now, a first thing to notice in here, my main page is actually going to be created before the onStart method is executed. The flow is simply that, of course, the constructor is called before any other method. In the constructor, we are creating a new main page, and this assigning this new main page to a new navigation page, and the navigation page assigned to the main page. Once the main page is ready, or the constructor is executed, then the onStart method executes. So I'm telling you this because right here we're initializing the main page. So you have to make sure that you do not start to throw errors at App Center before the onStart method is created because they will simply not be registered. If you needed to, you could, whatever code I'm about to add here on the onStart method, add it after the component has been initialized before the main page is created. But in case you do not need to send errors so quickly, I just recommend you do it directly on the onStart. And here on the onStart, I will need to access the App Center class, which is in the new Microsoft.appcenter namespace, of course, coming from one of the packages that I just referenced. And this type is going to contain the start method. And the start method, we're going to be using the second override of the start method. And it will first receive a string, and then it's going to receive an array of certain types. What services are we going to be initializing? So let me leave the string empty for a second and tell App Center that the first service that we're going to be using is the crashes service. For this, I will need another using directive, this one to Microsoft.appcenter.crashes. And for now, this is the only service that I will need. Now, this string is quite interesting. To be able to complete that string, let me actually define the Android app secret variable in here. This is an empty string for now. and also the iOS app secret. I won't be telling you these secrets yet, but on the onStart, what we will have to do is this string will have to contain all of the app secrets for all of your apps. If we, for example, had a UWP application for Windows 10, we will also have to add a UWP app secret. But with these two, we will have to first write the Android and actually tell the App Center that this is the Android app secret. So we just write Android equal and pass the Android app secret. Since we're going to be adding another one, we need a semicolon. This is going to be the iOS, and again, equal, and pass, in this case, the iOS app secret. And again, here you could add the UWP app secret. You would have to add colon, write UWP equal, and write the app secret. But we don't have a UWP application, so let's just focus on Android and iOS for now. Now let's go get these secrets. And the app secrets are actually coming from the App Center. So when we created the applications for both Android and iOS, an app secret was generated. So let me navigate over to the App Center to show you where to get them. Here in the App Center then, I will first navigate over to my finance.android application. And over in the Settings tab at the bottom, I will be able to find this ellipsis button at the top right corner. I can simply select it, select Copy App Secret, and now the app secret is on my clipboard. So I can head back to Visual Studio and paste this app secret. Back on App Center, I can do the exact same thing for iOS. Go to Settings, the ellipsis, copy app secret, and paste it over on Visual Studio. So when the App Center gets started, it will use this Android app secret, this iOS app secret, and be started with the crashes as one of the services that it's going to be providing. So this is actually the same setup that we're going to need in the next lecture. In the next lecture, we're not going to need to get the app secrets again. These are generally going to be used throughout all of the services for App Center. What we do have to do is start reporting errors. So this is something that I'm going to be implementing pretty roughly. I am going to navigate over to the post page.cs file and actually throw myself an exception. Our application is working very straightforward, so for us to simply test how is this going to work with App Center, what I'm going to do is right here in the second overload of the constructor of this page is going to add a try-catch block. And this is something that you would normally do, by the way. The only thing that is not going to be normally what you do is the throwing of an exception, but you could have here a try-catch block in a code that you know that may have some trouble executing, and simply catch an exception. Now what I'm going to do, just to simulate what would happen if something went wrong, is to throw myself a new exception. And as I create the exception, I will actually just pass a message. Let's say that the message is going to be unable to load block or something like that. And when I receive this exception, I'm actually going to be sending the exception over to App Center. So we have added the crashes namespace before, but here I'm going to need it again for crashes to call the track error method. And notice that the track error method is actually going to be requiring the exception itself. And this is it. This is literally everything that you need to do to send the information about the exception over to App Center. And you would, of course, add this to many different places of your application where there may definitely be some errors. So you start to notice in App Center where these errors are happening, how often are they happening, and how are your users starting to react. Now notice that this track error method, in addition to the exception itself, could receive a dictionary of strings. And this is optional. Notice that by default this would be null if we don't pass any value. But let me show you what you would do if you wanted to send more information over to App Center. These are going to be properties, additional properties that you want for the error to provide App Center with a bit more information about what happened. And so what I'm going to do is create a new variable called properties that is going to be equal to a new dictionary. And this is going to be a dictionary with string for the keys and string for the values. And I'm going to be initializing it right away with one key value pair. Here, of course, you could have many key value pairs. I'm just going to be adding one. And the key is going to be the name of the property that you want to send. Let's say, this is again just going to be an example, but let's say that the key is going to be blog post. And the value is going to contain information about the blog post that was trying to be opened. So from item, I'm going to simply get the title. The item, of course, is the one that I'm receiving here in the constructor. And so the title of the blog post that was trying to be opened when the blog was unable to be loaded is going to be sent over to the App Center by passing the properties over to the track error method. And that's it. This is everything now that we need to do to also send properties. Now let's go ahead and test this out. So I will run this first on my Android simulator. I am going to add a breakpoint in here just to make sure that this is going to be executed. As soon as it executes, I will try this on iOS and go over to App Center to show you the results. So when the app runs on Android, I simply have to select one of these items and we see the breakpoint being hit. I will just hit on continue. And before testing on iOS, by the way, this line should probably not go inside of the try-catch block. This should definitely, because it has to do with setting the use safe area to true, not go after the throw. So let me just change that before testing on iOS. These should have already been sent to the Android application. So let me just change this and test on iOS as well. So we are now here on iOS as well. I changed this line, select one of these items. I actually got rid of the breakpoint, but it should have hit. This should have been executed. So both iOS and Android have now sent something to App Center. Let's go back to App Center and take a look at what has been received. So I am here on App Center for the case of the Android application, and we can see that indeed we now see these unable to load blog system.exception error that has been logged. And if I select it, I can see that it happened in the emulator that was running Android 8.1. We can see a little bit more information in the reports about what devices have been having this error, the version in which this error happened, the number of users, the number of reports for this particular error as well. If we select one of the reports where we see the device, the OS, and the date, here is where we are going to be able to find where this happened, a little bit more information about this, and the error properties that we sent. We can see that this is the property that we sent, blog_post, and the title of the post, because that is what we're sending as the properties. And the same thing is going to happen for iOS. So let me go ahead and find iOS, go to diagnosis, and go to errors. And here in errors is where I'm also going to find this log that has happened 2 minutes ago. So let me go ahead and select that, and we're going to see the exact same thing. The version where this happened, number of users, number of reports. In the reports, see the simulator running iOS 12, select it, and see all of these same information that we just saw on Android as well. So there you have it. This is how you will be able to track errors from your application over in App Center. Now, in the next lecture, we're going to learn a bit more about what you can do with App Center, in this case to track events, so you get a better idea of how your application is being used.